Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Rowe. I am the CEO of Support After Abortion, and I am grateful to be among you today. I wanted to personally welcome you to our Support After Abortion Healing Network weekly Facebook Live event. You are going to hear personal testimonies, stories of restoration, how other people are providing restoration, and it is our hope that we can spread the message of hope and healing far and wide. I am so excited to introduce you to Karen Barbuto, our program director. She is going to be interviewing someone so amazing today, and you are going to enjoy and leave enlightened, empowered, and equipped.
Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Barbuto, as Lisa Rose said. Thank you for that introduction, Lisa. I'm so excited to have you on the Healing Network today. Today is episode number 7, and we're bringing Jessie Lapek from episode 4 back today, and she's brought with her husband, Jason, today. So won't you help me in welcoming Jessie and Jason Lapek to the show? So, ladies and gentlemen, and all of you that are watching, this is Jessie and Jason Lapek. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
You are welcome. We just need that internet to stay solid, right?
That's right.
Just 30 minutes to get this through. Okay. So, hey, guys, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us how long you've been married, stuff like that, just so people know who you are.
Okay, we're Jason and Jessie Lapek. Next month, we'll be married 14 years.
Wow, that's really great. And Jason, I brought you on for a couple of different reasons. One is because Sunday is Father's Day. And as I was explaining to those that are watching while you guys were reconnecting, we want to emphasize that men grieve after abortion, and there's programming available for them. There's help and wholeness and healing for men, just like there is for women. But Jason, I also brought you on because you were part of your wife's healing journey, which I had the privilege to walk through with her. And you taught me something during that process, something that I knew intellectually, but I had never witnessed, and it impacted me profoundly. And so we're going to get to that a little bit later in the show, but you guys did come together. You're a blended family. Could you explain to those watching what that means and who each of you brought to this relationship, this family dynamic?
So, blended family, we're just a big mixed up mess, really. I came with 3 kids, and she came with 1. She was from the very beginning, she was the only mom really that my kids had. And I'm truly blessed that she came in my life when she did. I couldn't have imagined how this would be turning out right now without her. So.
And so our dynamics for a blended family are a little unique. Both of our children on both sides don't have relationships with their biological mom, and Allie with her biological dad growing up. So we really were the only parents that our kids knew when they were growing up.
Yeah. And when you guys got together, your little ones were little, right? They were really still pretty small.
Yeah, they were 4.
Wow. So this has been a journey that you guys have been on together, for almost 14 years. Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Jessie, you were on episode 4 where you shared with us about your 2 abortions and the healing that you began. But what I also know to be true is that you guys were married for quite some time, and it wasn't until you started going to church and you heard the testimony from a colleague about a survivor of sex trafficking. And for those of you watching, if you want to know all of the details about that, you can go back and review episode 4 on our Facebook page, or you can watch it on YouTube and you'll have some context for this. But once that did raise up in you and you were triggered by that, you started the healing journey with me. And I know that right from the beginning, you got your whole family involved in that just because I know you. And if you could share with us what that was like for you, just, kind of inviting Jason into that process from the very beginning.
Yeah, for sure. And you are absolutely right. I did include them. I spent a lot of my years just in denial and defending what I had done, justifying all of those defense tactics that we use to try to tell ourselves that we're okay. And ultimately, what I realized was it was affecting my relationships in a really negative way. There was a big part of me that wasn't vulnerable with Jason or my kids. And when I realized all of that and started going through the healing process, there was a lot of communication with everybody and letting them know what I was going through, and ultimately apologizing for not being as present or available or able to connect emotionally because of that. But from the very beginning, I was able to share with Jason the things that I was going through. And in each step of my healing journey, he was really a rock for me to be able to talk to, and unfortunately also to dump on. Or, we go through all kinds of emotions when we're healing. So some of it's sad, some of it's anger, some of it's agitation, irritability. So thankfully, he was able to, like I said, be a rock in those circumstances and really support me through it from the beginning.
So, Jason, for those men out there watching that are perhaps in a similar situation, they've either been through an abortion decision together, or like Jessie, she had them before you guys ever even met. What was her that process like for you in the beginning steps?
In the beginning steps, I was really confused. It wasn't really until I stepped back to look at the big picture of seeing her hurt and feeling the loss, through her, that I was actually able to mourn it myself. It was like, mourning through her, with her, to be able to get through that. So.
Yeah, it must be hard as a husband to watch your wife struggle so much and not be able to do anything about it, right?
Yeah, it's real difficult, and to like you said, not to be able to do anything about it, not knowing what to do, not knowing where to turn, not knowing how to process the grief yourself. It was really difficult.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that. So for those of you watching, I just want to set some context on what the healing journey looks like, because we're going to kind of focus on that for the next parts of this interview. So when you go through a written workbook, you talk about different things. One of the things that you start out with is symptomology. What kind of feelings are you having? Emotions are you having? Behaviors are you engaging in that you didn't do or didn't do to the same degree before your abortion as you are now? We also talk about denial. How was it that we justify the decision that we made? Jessie's shaking her head because we have to do that in order to be able to cope. Right. And then we talk about guilt and shame. And, guilt can usually be pretty healthy. It just lets us know that we did something wrong, where shame really makes it be about us personally, that we're wrong. Right. And so then we talk about anger, towards ourselves or towards those people that influenced our decision. And then we have to, kind of wrap all that up in forgiveness, because without forgiveness, we're going to be trapped forever. Right. And so the last step for most of these healing programs is what we call the memorial service. And this is a time, like any funeral, when you have a ceremony to honor the life that was lost. Right. And so parents that have experienced abortion, that during this time might think about what gender their child might have been. They might give their child a name, and might write poems or letters and things like that. And so all of those different things set us up so that we can have closure over the loss of that life. And so, Jason, this is what I was talking about earlier in the interview. You taught me something very important. So would you tell us what happened during the memorial service for Jessie's 2 aborted children? You were invited there. You came by, Jessie, and let us know what that was like for you.
I was very honored that she brought me in to be part of that, with her, being able to, have the closure, sending the balloons up, and having the memorial service, for the loss of a son and a daughter, that we would have been able to grow, with our blended family and everything. Just knowing that my son would have had a brother to grow up with instead of all sisters, he would have been really happy with that. He even tried talking to us later in life to try one more time, maybe to have him a little brother or whatever. But just having the fact or knowing that I could have been there for her with that, it was just truly honoring.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is that during that moment when Jessie was towards the completion of her healing process, you just were beginning yours, right? You had that epiphany right then, that realization right then that had Jessie had those two children, your blended family would look so different today. And
Yeah.
I remember, and I watched it, man, it made me weep. I remember you just thinking like, oh my gosh, I've suffered a loss too.
Yeah, I mean, it was like my heart got ripped out of my chest feeling, it was like, I love children. I love, everybody's kids, but to know that, we could have had two more, it was.
Yeah. I'm sorry for your loss. I know how painful that can be. And Jessie, what was that moment like for you to watch how Jason reacted when he was given a balloon?
Yeah, it was the whole end of it was really an emotional roller coaster for me. Even leading up to it, like I said in the beginning, I could be irritable at different times, and my go-to, unfortunately, when I'm feeling like that is to push people away. So I can remember the morning of going to that and just not realizing that my emotions were so high. We ended up in an argument of some sort, and I couldn't recognize it was because my emotions were so high. But I can remember God saying, like, invite him. And I'm like, in my stubbornness, like we all can do, like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm doing this all by myself. Thankfully, I listen some or most of the time. And I asked him if he wanted to join me. I just felt like since I had gone through the entire process with leaning on him for support, that it would be something that would be, again, something he could support me in. But so when we got there, the best I can describe it is I didn't feel alone. I think when we have children that we've aborted in the past, we go through all of those feelings, the shame, the denial, the grief, the guilt. We go through all that alone, and we also think that we have to go through the healing process alone. Yeah. And so really, I just felt like even going through the healing process, I felt like I was the only one that would miss my kids or that would mourn the loss of them. And so when Jason was writing a letter to them on the balloon and broke down himself, I, for the first time, didn't feel so alone, in the sense that I knew I had people to support me, but I felt like someone else was really feeling the same way that I did and grieving and mourning a loss. And
that's so good. Really, yeah, that's so good. I took a picture of you two with your backs, your arms around each other and letting those balloons go. And you didn't take your eyes off of them for like 10 minutes until you couldn't see them anymore. It was really something that's etched in my memory that I'll never forget. And I hope I get to experience it again, because I know there's people out there watching that are in a similar situation and just have never thought of it, right? Never even thought about it. So Jason, as a result of your wife's healing journey and the realization that you suffered a loss and didn't even know it, right? Until just recently, you went through your own healing journey. We connected you with a male facilitator, and he took you through a workbook. Could you share with us what that process was like?
Yes, I went through, it's called Healing the Father, a book by Chris Rainey with a male facilitator. And just the fact that it allowed me to grieve, where I didn't feel like, I was doing something wrong, or, because as men, we're taught to, be strong, just kind of keep sucking it up, and just to go through the steps, like you say, that the workbooks are like step driven and everything, but, just going through and getting the workbook done. Well, let me back up just for a second. So I want to say that it was easy, but it really wasn't. Several times the facilitator had to reach out to me and kind of give me that gentle nudge, hey, did you do your stuff this week? No. Okay, why not? So, so I was like still trying to run away from the grief and everything. But, he was gentle with me, and the fact when I needed it, just loving and open to, all of my junk that I was carrying in with it. But yeah, just to be able to have somebody in my corner, that understood, because he'd been through similar stuff in the past, and the stories that, he was able to share with me really helped me in my grief process and healing process also.
Jason, thanks for being so transparent. We know as women that it is not easy. We don't want to go through it. Most times it gets worse before it gets better. And it sounds like your healing process was very much the same. And so that just reinforces to me why we're having this show today, because men grieve loss too. And we grieve it in a very similar way. There's hurt, there's a void, there's an emptiness that comes behind that. And there's no closure unless we talk about it, right? The closure comes from talking about it and moving through those emotions with the help of somebody that's been through it before. So because Father's Day is coming on Sunday, we felt it was really important to bring this message to you again about that men hurt after abortion, men grieve their loss just like women, and men can, as Jason is sitting here to testify to, men can find hope through the healing journey. We've said it week after week after week. Healing is a lifelong process. We're still working through it, right? I know, Jason, you're part of our codependency group, one of our virtual groups that we're hosting right now. And that has just been eye-opening for you as well, right?
Yeah, it really has. I always used to think that everything was my problem or this or whatever, but, finding the roots to where all of our junk comes from is really freeing. So
if you're interested in learning more about our virtual groups, we're going to put our website up in the feed. It's www.supportafterabortion.com. And if you just click on the resource page, it will show you everything that's available that's happening right now. So I just want to speak specifically to some groups out there that might be watching. Let's start with the blended family, the stepdad whose wife had abortions before they were ever in a relationship, and they just are finding out or they're grieving their loss. What would you say to them, Jason?
Just for me, it was finding the vulnerability. I had to be vulnerable before I could start my healing. If you're feeling like you need to talk to somebody, just please reach out. That was the hardest thing for me was, seeing that my wife was struggling and not knowing how to help her. So the fact that, she was nudging me one way and I was feeling compelled to go do that, for us, it just really helped our relationship to the next level.
Yeah, thank you for that. And some other men that might be out there, it might be the boyfriend that encouraged his girl to have that abortion. If you're struggling with that now, reach out for help. We have people standing by that can help you right now. Or if you're the friend, it was my roommate that gave me the money and it made it so easy for me to go. If you're the friend that gave the money or drove them to the clinic and you wish that you hadn't done those things, there's help for you. You can reach out right now. And I think about the father who didn't want his daughter to have an abortion, and yet she did. And he's really grieving the loss of what could have been his grandchild. If you're out there today, we have help for you. So take Jason's advice. I know how difficult it is to pick up the phone and reach out, but it's so worth it. Just look at Jessie and Jason before you today. There is hope after healing. So, Jason, do you have any last words for anybody that may be watching, about doing this together in a relationship, or just any last words to bring people hope and encouragement?
Our journey has not been easy by any means, but the more healing that we both receive, I would say the better connected we are. On a deeper emotional level, something that I've never seen in any of my relationships growing up, parents, grandparents, just the connection that she and I have now is truly worth whatever running you may do for whatever healing you may want to receive.
So there's hope and healing and help out there, and it's hard, but it gets better.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. Any final words from you, Jessie?
Nope, that's it. Just don't hesitate to reach out. We lived in so much dysfunction for so long, and you don't have to live there. You don't have to stay there, and it is free to be able to tell your story, receive support and help. So don't stay there. Get some help.
That's right. So that's really the conclusion of our show today. Next week, we're going to have Carolyn Franzen on the show. She's the newest team member of Support After Abortion. She is our programming coordinator. Carolyn has an abortion testimony of her own, and you're not going to want to miss it. So that's the next Tuesday at 4 p.m. with Carolyn Franzen. And just in closing, if you'll give me just a few minutes, we know the impact that abortion has around this country. We know that there are hurting and struggling people out there. And yet, abortion does not discriminate. There's not a typical face to abortion. It could be the cashier at your grocery store. It could be the waitress that waits on you at your favorite restaurant. It could be your dentist, your doctor, your lawyer. It could be your neighbor, and it could be your sister. So we're doing these shows so that it reaches people that want help, that don't know where to get help. So we're going to encourage you to share these videos, share it with your friends and family, and encourage them to do the same, because you never know who might see this and find freedom as a result. So thank you guys for being on the show again. I love you both very much. We will see you next week, episode number 8.